Have you ever seen tonkotsu broth this thick or rich before? Because I have not. Hey guys, good morning, it's Mike Chang here in Sydney, Australia. Today is gonna be a very fun food day because it's gonna be a day full of ramen. And it all starts right here with some mazesoba. The first place I am at is called IIKO Mazesoba. I got 2 bowls of ramen. One is one of their originals, the Zenbu Mazesoba, and the other one is a special mazesoba they're doing, and it's a Genmaicha salmon. Let's do the original first. Looks so freaking good. First of all, it's beautiful. Onsen egg on top, the spicy minced pork, the pork belly. Look at this. So this is stewed for 4 hours. You see a lot of fat in this pork, and this thing just breaks apart very, very easily. There's shallots, corn, bamboo shoots, sesame seeds, nori, and also ground fish. Open up the onsen egg, and mazesoba, you just mix everything together. Also, all their noodles are made in-house, and it's very thick, wavy noodles. And this thing has a load of sauce. And as soon as you mix all the ingredients together, you smell all that delightful pork, and that is just intoxicating. Definitely try out the pork. Whoa, that is some smoky, melt in your mouth, fatty pork belly. This is so delicious. Besides that melty pork, you get a huge boost of umami from the fish. That's something you don't taste a lot in mazesoba. Because it's so rich, you add some vinegar, and this is kombu vinegar, and then add some hot oil. This thing's got a pretty good amount of heat already. Let's add that together. I like a lot of vinegar in my noodles, especially something as rich as this. Oh yeah, it's perfect for me. First of all, their noodles are spectacular. It's thick, it's chewy, it's just a perfect texture. The minced pork, of course, delicious. You got the popping corn, but really, that pork belly steals the show. That combination of melty fat and smoky char, that's just irresistible. This is one of the best bowls of mazesoba I've had anywhere. It's just so good. And when the noodles are pretty much gone, it's time for the oi meshi. Then they'll give you a small portion of rice to add into the leftover ingredients. So mix all that up so the rice catches every bit of that delicious sauce. From the popping corn to snappy bamboo to the fatty smoky pork and the umami from the fish, every single bite, you're just drowning in flavor. This is such a great first meal of the day. Glad I did not go for any hotel breakfast. All right, this next one is really interesting. I've never seen mazesoba with sashimi before. Inside, you can see the little poppin' rice, the nori, mix the tea sauce in. This is really different. Same scrumptious chewy noodles. The flavors are very light. You definitely taste the tea. And what you're supposed to do, I'll give you a little bowl. There's 3 sauces here. So what you can do is try the noodle with the 3 sauces. So first is sensho. Mix it around. So adding that is a burst of umami with a nummy, peppery taste. Try it with the wasabi sauce. And I'm gonna bring out a piece of the salmon. A little wasabi on that as well. That is a very concentrated wasabi. That is definitely my favorite addition though, especially with the ultra tender salmon sashimi and some of the popping roe. Last one, let's try the yuzu. I think the yuzu is very nice as well. Add a little wasabi with the yuzu. That's great. I love noodles with a lot of yuzu flavor and wasabi flavor. I think the essential for me, it's gotta be a particular type of noodle, maybe a dandan. But for dry noodles, I like those two the best. This is definitely the most interesting bowl of masoba I've had. Also, I don't think this is the first time I'm in a masoba restaurant where they make their own noodles. And these noodles are 10 out of 10, astonishingly good. So I think whatever flavor you get, you're gonna like it. So the second ramen place, didn't have to walk far, just around the corner at Gumshara. The signature ramen at this restaurant is tonkotsu, and I never seen it like this before. The broth is much richer and darker. And if you see what chef is doing in the kitchen, there's a pot with just dozens of pork bones just simmering. And there's two pots next to it with various degree of concentration. And the broth comes from the most concentrated pot. And it smells and looks glorious. And I've been here for maybe 2 minutes, it's already congealing a little bit on top. And I had to get the mega ramen. This thing comes with a skewer of pork belly. Look at this. This is so beautiful. Also, a whole entire rib, pieces of thinly sliced chashu. And when I say thinly sliced, I mean paper thin, almost translucent. And this has a lot of fat. Medium straight noodles. Have you ever seen tonkotsu broth this thick or rich before? Because I have not. There's even a sign where you're sitting that pretty much says if you find the broth too thick or too salty, they'll adjust it for you. Let's try it out. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. This is the richest broth, not just the richest tonkotsu broth I've ever had. This might be the richest ramen broth I've ever had, period. You could almost eat your broth with your chopsticks. It's fatty, it's very porky. Nothing here is subtle. This is a bowl of pork ramen and you'll know it from your first sip. That flavor 100% soaked into the noodles. You're tasting all that rich porky flavor in every single slurp. Let's try this pork belly. Oh, it's amazing. Toasty on the outside, it's very fatty. I think it was marinated maybe in some soy sauce, some other spices, a slight bit of sweetness. This is what they call a spice bomb. So it looks like chilies with minced pork. Mix that in there. That definitely has a ton of heat. This bowl of noodle is intense. Chashu is delicious. That thing is pretty much half fat, so it will melt in your mouth. And check this out. Look at this whole giant rib. Oh yeah, that's good. It's really toasty and crispy on the outside. Inside, very tender. And look at this, they sliced it so you get more of that beautiful texture. You will not find a porkier bowl noodle on this planet, I don't think. And there's a whole condiments bar that I feel like I need to hit up because there's some pickled vegetables on there. I need it. So on the sauce bar, there's some chives, also some chilies. I feel like this is really great to cut down the richness. Yeah, that definitely helps you keep on slurping. This is such an intense bowl of noodles. It's so good. Also, what's really interesting is that because of the layer of fat on the surface of your broth, it seals the heat in. It's still piping hot. Also, noodles themselves, it's chewy, it's beautifully al dente. And every time you slurp, it feels like I just applied on a layer of chapstick. I think I'll be sweating collagen for the next 2 days. That was definitely by far the richest bowl of ramen I've ever had in my life. Nothing comes close. And that thing is just a flavor powerhouse. Especially if you get the rib and the skewers. It's truly one of the most unique bowls of ramen I've ever had. That soup, no thickener needed. That was all from the collagen of the bones. I definitely need a nap after this. Or maybe like a 2-hour stroll. I'll say this though, if you love ramen, if you love porky ramen, add this to your food bucket list. Trust me.
Much later.
All right, dinner time. Dinner number one. This is not a ramen, but this thing looked way too good to pass up. I'm at a restaurant called Khao Soi. This is their seafood Khao Soi, and it looks amazing. There's scallops, salmon sashimi, a whole roasted giant prawn sitting on a bed of egg noodles. You garnish it with some shallots, cilantro, a splash of lemon juice, and they give you a little cup of extra coconut milk to enhance the richness. This is a rich, luxurious bowl of Thai noodles. Plenty of heat, a little bit of sweetness. You definitely taste the creaminess of the coconut milk. It's aromatic, it's fresh, it's got such robust flavors. Just like the previous bowl of ramen I just had, this is not a subtle bowl of noodles. Egg noodles, nice and chewy, with little crunchy noodles on top. Ooh, I was wrong. It's not salmon sashimi. It's slices of smoked salmon. That adds such a nice smoky flavor. All the seafood in this bowl, I haven't got to the giant prawn yet, but everything else, the salmon, the scallops, just so tender, fresh, and sweet. The roasted prawn, make sure you dunk the meat into the head of the prawn. Sweet, succulent, filled with that delicious umami flavor of the prawn head, along with that great smoky flavor of the fire. It's really a nice contrast to flavors. The Khao Soi itself is very thick and rich. The seafood provides a nice, light, refreshing balance from that coconutty broth. Saw a picture of this, knew right away I want to give it a try. Yeah, this thing tastes as good as it looks.
Much later.
I'm here in the Chatswood area of Sydney, Australia. This is really cool. Oyster Hotpot. I should clarify, this isn't just an oyster hot pot, it's an oyster hot pot ramen meal. These are Hiroshima oysters. It's around a kilo of oysters, so over 2 pounds of oysters in miso broth with a bunch of veggies like cabbage and tomatoes, scallions, and mushrooms. And there's a little condiment bar over there. There's all sorts of different salts and sauces. So I got some chili, some wasabi salt. Let's eat. First of all, taste some of the broth. Get some oysters, some cabbage. These are some plump oysters. Oh, that's good. That is a very concentrated miso broth. The umami is strong in this one. This is such a crazy looking hot pot. When this came to the table and that thing is just lined up with oysters, it's such a beautiful sight. Oh my God. Those oysters are so plump and juicy with a little bit of sweetness, a tiny hint of brininess. The flavors basically encapsulates the very best flavors of the sea. And since it's been swimming in all that miso broth, this thing is just stocked full of umami as well. Very clean tasting, no fishiness whatsoever. Pretty much everything that's swimming inside that miso broth, it just tastes so good. I'm gonna add some chilies, some chili paste. And for the oysters, add a little bit of wasabi salt. Wow. The wasabi salt added even more depth to the flavor of the oysters. This time I'm just gonna directly add some wasabi on here. You don't want to add too much because you don't want the wasabi to overpower that beautiful flavor of the oysters. A little bit of wasabi, I feel like really highlights the sweetness. And the addition of the chilies in the miso broth, beautiful. Oh, this is so good. You know what'd be really good with this? I think some yuzu. All right, got a couple more dipping sauces. One is nashi pear. Put that on my oyster. Oh, it's got a really nice fruity, savory umami flavor. That's good. Also, some yuzu. I think I like that the best. Put a little yuzu in my broth as well. This pot of miso broth, with all that oyster flavor simmered in, it's got so much flavor. And when that's soaked up by the vegetables, Parents, you'll never have trouble getting your kids to eat vegetables if it tastes like this. Ramen has arrived. Go ahead and add that in there. Throw a little bit of chilies directly into the pot. Not so much that it disrupts the beautiful flavor of the oysters, but just enough for a little heat. Here it is, oyster ramen. Oh, this is so nice. There's a noticeable difference between how the broth tastes now than what it tasted like in the beginning just with the miso. There's so much more umami now in this broth, and it's all soaked into these noodles. This is such a uniquely ingenious hot pot. Never heard of something like this before? Never would have imagined eating something like this, but it just makes sense, right? I mean, oyster sauce? That's like the best sauce to add to pretty much anything for more umami, more flavor, more happiness. And this pot basically stewed all that natural flavor out of the oyster into the broth, into the noodles, into the vegetables. If you do try this, I highly recommend adding some chilies in the broth, adding some yuzu, just to make this pot of flavor pop even more. This is my happy meal right here. Dessert time. First thing, their Japanese pudding. I love pudding, especially in Japan. Their Japanese pudding is just silky smooth. I really wanted to try this. So they make their own Hokkaido ice cream in-house, soft serve. This is not just rich and milky, it's actually incredibly refreshing as well. This is perfect after oyster hot pot. One last thing, this is their almond pudding. And it looks so pretty, like a fresh layer of snow. Well, this thing is really smooth and delicate. Combine that with some of the soft serve. I think that goes great together. This is just a perfect conclusion to this amazing ramen day. Really found some of the most interesting ways to eat ramen right here in Sydney. A wonderful bowl of mazesoba in the morning, or I got my new favorite hat, and then just the most uniquely amazing bowl of tonkotsu ramen I've ever seen. And finally this. There's actually so many more ramen places I wanted to try, but since this is a holiday weekend, a lot of them weren't open. But Sydney, you guys have some amazing noodles here. Of course, as always, all the places I went to listed down below for you guys. Thank you all so much for watching. Until we eat again, see you later.